landscape. But in fact, the landscape is the University of Phoenix and online universities and public universities and people going to universities to get degrees that are about making money and finding a job. And St. Paul's is so incredibly beautiful and so incredibly wealthy and so incredibly privileged. And I think that my hope is that it will hang on and preserve a tradition which it's had, which is not to prepare anyone for a particular career, but to prepare people to think in a general way about how different things fit together. We're on a fault line maybe in two senses as a generation. We were on a fault line in the 1960s. That was a huge shift, a huge cultural shift. It was astonishing to see the film tonight and to see what we were like in the late 1960s with these intense conversations about smoking and these celebrations and ludic events taking place outside. It was a real shift at the school that took place in those years. But we're also a generation that's witnessing another fault line, and that is that we went through a period in the 90s and early part of this century where the limits seemed to not exist, and we couldn't have imagined the kinds of screw-ups that were going to come to the markets or to the environment, and they've been huge. And the question of accountability is absolutely huge. And so the fault line is, if I think about Bill Oates' question, what should an SPS student who starts to help someone in the future, say in 2025, what is that student going to be doing? My hope is that we can help in some way preserve an institution that pays attention to thinking about the broader ethical questions, the questions of connectivity, the questions of developing forms of knowledge that are not automatically applied, and that St. Paul's is one of the few institutions that's wealthy enough not to have to worry about the pressures of becoming eminently practical. And the more we can do to kind of encourage that sense that there's a kind of place in the world for people to pursue a very broad education, I think that would be a gift to the school.
I salute Chris for having started this. I think we've got 10 years to really put together something great, and I don't presume that anybody buys into any of this. I'm encouraged by it, and I think there are a lot of good thoughts here. But if anybody's bothered by this or think it's not really the right thing, please share that with me or share that with others so we get it to be right. I think we do have a challenge. I think many people have identified it. And I love Maury's line, which is, why leave it to someone else? Let's do it ourselves. Let's take the lead. It will be fun, and it could be really meaningful. When you look back through history, very few people think of accumulation of wealth. They think of contributions, whether it's great military leaders. Great artists. Most artists die paupers, and yet their works of art are remembered always. They're cherished. They're sold for lots of money. One of my favorite are musicians. Musicians, they don't make of course you have the Beatles and the Stones, but most musicians, what Bach has given us is just unbelievable, and it cannot be reduced to money. Not in a way that I understand anyway. So I think that Chris really started a very meaningful thought, and I encourage you all to contribute to it in any way you want. And if you don't, get out of the way, because we're going forward.
I only have one thing to say, and that's that I don't think we have 10 years. That's the key. There may be a result in 10 years. There may be something we do and we blow up the chapel or something. I don't know. We do something liturgical. I got to figure out what it is. You know, we all stand around and we have something incredibly cool that we do, but our experience exists now, and the empathy isn't getting any better, and the Gulf isn't getting any better, and the birds aren't multiplying. And so whatever to you is your ultimate concern about the things you can get behind, we better start an email trail like tomorrow. Now, what? And say, let's figure out what that is, because if we don't start now, we miss the moment. And AMO has fought so hard to try and get the school to wake up to the fact that we have the experience that Scott refers to, and that we even have some gravitas. And it hasn't cared. The school hasn't cared. So we have to not worry about what the school thinks. We have to only worry about what we think, because the only thing we can control is our own behavior.